catastrophe humanity has ever faced, and our government is doing nothing!
Order! I think 2019 was a year of polarity.
Political chaos around the world, a sense of an unmooring of control.
I think has shaken so many things up.
I think it's also the year that Mother Nature got sick of being a punching bag and punched us back right in the face.
I would say 2019 was the longest year in living memory.
Bit of challenging year.
It was a scary year.
Make Australia great. United Australia Party can be the government of Australia. Bean counters are killing the country.
Well, there was some yellow everywhere. It was an extraordinary gout of spending that this man undertook. Clive Palmer spent, I think it was around 60 million by the end of the campaign.
I'm not quite sure whether that's the right way to go about it. Buy yourself into Parliament because you're wealthy. That's not very Australian, I don't think.
Oh my Lord, it's so big.
Bill Shorten wants to end the weekend.
We are going to save their youths.
Fraser Anning was holding a press conference and a young 17-year-old boy walked in and smashed an egg on his head.
In their own
It resonated because it was an act of mockery. You know, you have these strongmen, divisive nationalistic politicians who want to appear as tough guys, and then you have this little 17-year-old boy completely unafraid walks in there, cracks an egg on his head. It was incredible.
Labor. It's the bill Australia can't afford. Labor can't manage money. That's why they're coming after yours.
What's your name? Bill.
Oh, Bill.
I think Scott Morrison understood that Labor wasn't doing a very good job selling its very, very ambitious message.
The PM is in the house to cheer on his team.
The government was not expecting to win and the opposition was not expecting to lose.
Here we go.
On it in 5, 4, 3. Here we go.
This election, Scott Morrison and Bill Shorten are offering voters the starkest choice in a generation.
We were sitting around this big U-shaped table, pouring through all those great early responses where you get, well, there are 12 votes in from X booth.
We already have some first figures, so let's go straight to Anthony Green.
Now, there's only 21 votes here, so let's not get too excited.
Don't read too much into this. I love that phase of the Anthony Green election night broadcast.
This is Perisher Valley, so this is obviously maybe a few workers getting in before the ski season or a few people having a holiday before it starts snowing.
So not much more than an hour into the broadcast said,
at the moment, the projected figures just do not look like the opinion polls that are published. In fact, they're like the reverse of the opinion polls.
And that's the moment where I thought, OK, here we go. There's something different going on.
I think we've always thought the polls and prediction are correct, so something broke there.
I'd rather be a loser than a quitter.
Sorry to interrupt you, we have some breaking news. We're going to go to Anthony Green.
But we're certainly seeing enough numbers to say the Morrison government will be returned.
How good is Australia?
When the Labor Party didn't win the election, I got a shock, yeah.
I actually wasn't surprised by the result. I don't want to say I ended up being right, but kind of was.
And how good are Australians? These are the quiet Australians who have won a great victory tonight.
It's a catchphrase. I don't take that seriously. There is such a widespread mood of disillusionment with both sides of politics and with the whole way politics are played in this country.
Now, 2020 is a year of mystery, I think. This is a Prime Minister who still has an enormous amount of authority within his own party. What will be the aims? I'm not sure yet, actually. That is a great, wide open question for this next decade that commences very soon.
Don't forget to check out my Christmas lights on Kirribilli.
He's got to get down to actually having a vision and having a policy agenda for the country. And it's a little strange that we don't really know too much about what that is at the moment.
Weather-wise, climate-wise, this year has been like a Wagnerian opera, extreme to extreme.
This summer's heatwave is smashing temperature records. Today Adelaide hit 46.6 degrees, the city's hottest day in 130 years.
The scale, duration and intensity of the heatwave is quite unprecedented in Australia.
There's going to be more fish killed. By the end of this summer, there would be lucky to be a fish alive in the lower Darling.
Once-in-a-century flooding has left much of the North Queensland city of Townsville underwater.
Sometimes you wonder where your life's gone so wrong that you've ended up in this position. I haven't bothered counting what's still alive or what's dead.
Far worse, this flood. A drought comes slowly, you can manage it. This was like a tsunami.
While North Queensland's being battered by catastrophic flooding, Tasmania's in the grip of unprecedented bushfires.
An incredibly challenging, almost unbelievable scenario in terms of the number of fires, the size of the fires, the duration of the fires, and worse still, the prognosis of no rain.
Gale force winds, heavy rain and snow as far as Queensland has caused chaos around the country today.
2 bushfires in 2 states, and it's only just spring.
Scientists are gaining their first glimpse of a rare event, a fire-ravaged rainforest.
Ecologically, this is a disaster. We can expect fires like that far more often, and we can expect fires that we've never experienced before, and we won't know what to do with them.
A prolonged dry spell continues across much of New South Wales, with 96% of the state declared in drought.
This is a drought that none of us have ever had. No one's experienced this, what's happened now.
Makes you wonder how do you get out of bed of a morning sometimes?
The worst may be yet to come, even though 2 states have already been through an unprecedented bushfire emergency during the weekend. The first ever catastrophic fire warning has been issued for Sydney.
I've got so many memories here, like photos, everything. And now I have to rebuild.
Today is the kind of day that firefighters dread. High temperatures, gusty winds, low humidity, and a crisp, dry landscape primed to burn.
Can't even.
I don't know what to say.
Can't recognise it.
But if you think there's no climate change happening, you're kidding yourself.
You wouldn't be human if you didn't look at the extreme events of this year and feel a sense of deep-seated anxiety. I mean, you have professional firefighters who say, we have never seen anything like this before.
It's the year of denial. All these things are happening around us.
The clock is ticking so fast now, and we can feel it. Everyone can feel in the air. Literally, we're breathing in the consequences of climate change.
Well, they don't need the ravings of some pure, enlightened and woke capital city greenies at this time.
If it's not time now to speak about climate change and what's driving these events, when? This fire season is going to go for months, so do we just simply get gagged?
You know, after a shooting, you don't want to talk about guns. After a catastrophic weather event, you don't want to talk about climate.
Anybody who says we've got to put off the debate about climate change because of fires or whatever, to me all they're just signalling is their own defensiveness.
To see politicians in Canberra coming up with reasons why they shouldn't discuss this issue that so many Australians are literally losing sleep about seems like a betrayal of what we entrust them to do.
We're going to send a message to our leaders to say we are here and we had enough.
I think people are seeing the magnitude of the problem.
Right here, right now, right
that it then brought adults out into the streets as well to back it. So it's not some marginalised thing. It is an upwelling of people's concerns, frustrations and desires to make a difference.
Right here, right now, is where we draw the line.
If they're not going to change anything, then what's going to happen to humankind? What's going to happen to the whole world?
I think that was an amazing thing this year in terms of the news stories. There seemed to be more taken to the streets.
How dare you pretend?
And I think Greta Thunberg led the charge in the fact that she's so articulate, precise, detailed, and she's doing it in a language that is not her own.
We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?
She has real issues.
It is child abuse to feed such a child crazy, threatening visions.
I wanted to buy her counselling lessons or put her over my lap and give her a slapping.
This girl, of course, should be cared for rather than paraded around.
How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my hopes.
Teenagers can get a little hysterical.
How dare you?
It's child abuse. I'll repeat it, child abuse.
I would never speak to a child like that.
The desperation of those young people, I completely understand that. And I don't think they should be judged for it and vilified and mocked. You know, I think they're, whether or not you like their tactics, their despair is very real.
We are in seriously complex times. These are probably the most challenging times in history.
The Hong Kong protests were a huge change in, I guess, how China shows itself to the rest of the world.
This naked grab for the principles of democracy among those where it's under threat.
I will shortly leave the job that it has been the honour of my life to hold, to have had the opportunity to serve the country I love.
Should I stay or should I go?
Brexit is great for Australia because it allows us to look at a comparable democracy and think, well, maybe ours isn't as bad after all. I mean, things could be significantly more stupid.
Should I stay or should I go?
Brexit is like a lesbian breakup between the UK and Europe, where the couples never quite manage to resolve it or break up and they still keep seeing one another and they have a lot of friends in common, so it's awkward.
It's just a mess.
You're right.
Boris Johnson's arrival in the Prime Ministership and his initial period there were just extraordinarily chaotic, bumbling, almost comedic.
I just don't believe it.
Which is sort of lucky because that's what he had trained the British public to expect.
We're going to get Brexit done. This One Nation Conservative government has been given a powerful new mandate.
Should I stay or should I go?
Please get us the emails! He asked Russia to go get the emails. I'm going to recuse myself. President Trump is waiting for the Mueller report. Yes, I agree with this. Yes, I agree.
There are those that think I'm a very stable genius, okay? I watch my words very, very closely.
This is a political leader who is so rarely on the back foot. He has created this weapons-grade brand of institutional shamelessness that is so powerful.
My administration has accomplished more than almost any administration in the history of our country. America's so true. Didn't expect that reaction, but that's okay.
The House of Representatives moving forward with an official impeachment inquiry.
It is improper for the President of the United States to demand a foreign government investigate a U.S. citizen and a political opponent.
My concern with the impeachment is there's a lot of very angry people.
The hell you haven't. You've been distracting from the truth.
We should be calling it what it is, which is a coup.
This is a coup attempt.
For a year and a half, and I hope you enjoy it.
This is an attempted coup
of the President of the United States.
I think this is all about the coup.
Joy,
and
because this president got the benefit of
our country is at stake like never before.
You know what? This is
a witch hunt.
And you put it on the line for him.
This whole thing is a disgrace.
This is
It's sad, actually.
Everything you're saying right now.
That's really bullshit.
Stop it. I'm a judge.
Because
here's the
for a judge,
Every
you should
day.
know.
Article 1 is adopted.
By the way, it doesn't really feel like we're being impeached, do you?
Question for the American people now is, do they care? Is this important? Or do you just file it under T for that's Trumpy? In a shocking year, I think 51 people being gunned down in Christchurch as they worshipped was pretty high on the list of the most shocking events.
Many of those who will have been directly affected may even be refugees here. They have chosen to make New Zealand their home, and it is their home. They are us.
She won praise because she was honest. It was nurture. It was pure heart. It was love. She said, we have to come together and make love the priority here.
I think people related to Jacinda Ardern because she responded to a tragedy like a proper human being. And we're not used to seeing that with politicians.
Australia lead for the first time in the match.
Magnificent game of cricket here at Old Trafford.
The Ashes was, I think, the best series of Test cricket that I've ever seen in my life.
Australia retain the Ashes.
Steve Smith's Ashes was incredible. You know, coming off that soap opera of the sandpapering scandal to put on an undeniable performance as the best batsman in the world under that kind of pressure was, for any cricket fan, that's exactly what you want. For any Australian cricket fan.
And it goes in between the two fielders.
Excellent stuff from Steve Smith. Another boundary. These runs are coming pretty quickly.
He showed an enormous amount of character to do that. Obviously with the bat, but it's the way he's held himself. But he inspires people, when you've had a bad patch in your life, keep moving forward. Put it behind you. You don't always win. Not everything goes well.
She's done it! Ashley Barty wins her maiden Grand Slam singles title.
I would never worry about her being beaten because she was always trying. She just makes you love to watch her play.
A champion that I think all of Australia can get behind.
Thank God we got a tennis person we can admire.
The first Australian to top the WTA ranking since 1976.
It's a proper smash.
Every single time I play, he's doing some stupid.
There's always those characters that polarise because they stand out. We don't like some element.
He's got some talent and he's worth watching until he gets to the point where he says, I'm out of here because maybe I can't handle the pressure of trying to win.
These bushfires
these droughts, all these things have come in a short period of time. You think it's a coincidence or not? God is speaking to you guys, Australia, you need to repent.
It's kind of hard to remember who Israel Folau was condemning, because he condemned so many. It was certainly adulterers, fornicators, homosexuals, thieves, maybe, I don't know, vain people who don't use their indicators. It could have been anyone.
London police have arrested Wikileaks founder Julian Assange.
One of the images of our times, I guess, you know, this Julian Assange being kind of carried out like an animal, looking a bit like a wild animal himself, physically being dragged out of the Ecuadorian embassy after so many years of him being in there.
Julian Assange is now rotting away in a prison in Britain, awaiting the likelihood or the strong possibility of extradition to America, where he might spend most of the rest of his life in jail.
You're a maggot, pal. A maggot. May you rot in hell.
The conviction of George Pell, I think, was such an important thing for victims of child abuse.
I think so many people who grew up in any connection with the Catholic Church feel so betrayed and so disgusted.
Australia has lost some favoured sons this year.
New Nationals leader Tim Fischer has pledged to rebuild the party from the grassroots.
How do you do, Rory?
You are one of the very genuinely loved people in this place.
I don't believe in an interventionist God.
He had a recognition, I think, of the Australian character that was very resonant.
Tim Fischer has displayed more guts on this issue than anybody.
I'm damned if we should have semi-automatics or automatics in the suburbs and towns of this country, and that's why
I'm so glad our country has made a decision, and him, in his lifetime as a politician, got it right.
Great Australian, Clive James. He'd made such a mark, both in television and in his writing, in his poetry. He could be a wonderful satirist.
Hi, girl.
But he was also a great poet, and the more he wrote towards the end of his life, the more he came to be recognised as a high-quality poet. He was many things, Clive James.
If I, that is, should finally succumb to these infirmities I'm slow to learn the names of, then send my ashes home, where they can fall in their own sweet time from the harbour wall.
You will always dream the skies of home. Oh, I can't bear this. I don't want to cry about it.
Well, I thought he was an Australian Prime Minister that could talk to people and enjoy them.
He was who he was. Yeah, Bob was Bob.
Yes, Daddy!
When we won the America's Cup in 1983, and he made that perfect comment, you know.
Any boss who sacks anyone for not turning up today is a bum.
That made Australia laugh.
They're going skull, skull, skull. And the great man, Bobby Hawke, nailed it.
He had a sense of humour, he had a heart, he had his own troubles, he could speak about them.
Like any father, I loved my daughter.
Into my arms, oh Lord, into my arms.
It was the combination of the two which was the real driving force of that government, which was one of the great reforming governments in our political history.
But he had another story as well, and that was his love story with Blanche Delpagé.
You're an argumentative lot, aren't you?
We didn't have the joy of young love. He had that with Hazel, but we had the joy of mature love and then the love of old age. And people don't realise, now I really am not going to cry, how wonderful it can be to look after somebody you love when they're old and dying.
He was a man who had a good death, after quite an extraordinary life.
But yeah, it was the end of an era.
Into my arms, oh Lord, into my arms, oh Lord, into my arms, oh Lord, into my arms.
Hardest part of the year was probably dealing with this ongoing drought. You just feel like you're in a pressure cooker all the time.
The hardest bit of the year, well, it's still happening, but the amount of koalas that have died in New South Wales is just a national tragedy.
As the first two Anglican clergy to actually be married, the hardest bit was some of the response on social media was really ugly, deeply shocking.
The worst part of the year was not being able to get rid of the tremor that Parkinson's has given me.
The worst bit of my year was the passage of time that I realised I was a year older.
It's difficult getting used to being just one person in the house, and it's lonely.
When I started my treatment for my cancer earlier in the year.
Yeah, it was quite difficult. Whilst I was pregnant, there was talk that Graham was going to have surgery to remove the cancer from his brain.
Best bit of my year would have definitely been walking my eldest daughter, Demi, down the aisle. She actually got married in September. Another little thing probably was that 40 mils of rain we had back at the start of November, where, we've got to be excited about it.
The best part of my year has probably been finishing school. I'm ready to move on to the next chapter of my life and see what's out there.
Witnessing 350,000 people in Australia protesting against the inaction of our government.
Our highlight of the year would have been the birth of our baby boy Arlo in August.
July.
Sorry. Next year, obviously hoping for good health, especially for me and the young boys.
The obvious thing is to continue in good health.
I'm really hoping for next year that we can be putting this drought behind us. We're in uncharted territory at the moment with how long this drought's been going on, and there doesn't seem to be light at the end of the tunnel at this stage, but hopefully that may change in the very near future.
Next year I hope we get a bit of a break from what everyone around the district's experiencing right now.
Big goals for next year.
Balance. I need to find some more time to chill.
His rest tremor in the right foot disappeared.
I hope that I'll be able to control the tremors with surgery.
Oh my goodness, lots and lots of rain. Heaps of good soaking rain right across the country where it's needed.
I actually would hope that it becomes possible for a bishop to actually bless those who are in civil marriages, and I would hope that we could be one couple amongst maybe dozens.
What I would really like is for St Kilda to win the flag. Go Saints!
I'm one of those old men who's working on a memoir, and I hope to God next year I finish it.
I would urge people to get in touch with, with their neighbours, with their friends, and really talk in this time.
It's really important that you find people in your own community to connect with. The best thing you can do for yourself and for your family is to find other people who understand you. Oh, if we have to, things can only get better from there. My beautiful boy.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 730's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.